Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this mini lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you a 12-bar blues that's played with a twist. Now, most of the time when we think of the blues, we think of a 12-bar form that's played using the 1, 4, and 5 chords. But did you know that you can actually alter this? For example, substituting one of those 3 chords with an entirely different one is a great way to jazz up the blues. Now, throughout this piece, we're going to be doing just that. We're going to deviate away from the traditional 1-4-5 blues, and we're going to switch up some of the chords, which is going to make this piece sound a bit fresher to our ears. So besides the change in sound, this piece also challenges you from a rhythmic playing perspective. You're going to learn some finger-picking passages that are played with eighth note triplet rhythm. You're also going to be strumming some syncopated patterns. And these syncopated strum patterns, they have a swung rhythmic feel. So if you need a bit of a recap on the difference between playing with a straight versus a swung feel, I'm going to link a lesson to that in the description box below. And I'm also going to include another lesson that explains what eighth note triplet rhythm is. So it's really, really important that you understand both of those, the swung rhythmic feel and what eighth note triplet rhythm is. So be sure to check out the description box for those lessons. Now, needless to say, this is a piece that's best suited for the advanced player. If you are teetering on the intermediate to advanced level, give it a shot, jump into this, but I think it's going to be best suited for the advanced player. So let's go ahead and take a step back now and let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, Matt is going to be teaching you how to play the entire piece. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for ML011. That's the lesson number for this lesson. Now, also on that page will be the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now, this is a great feature where you can hit play, watch the tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you want. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this. Don't forget to grab the low G before you jump in, and I will catch you at the end of the video.
Hello, my name is Matt Dahlberg, and in today's lesson we're going to be working on rhythmic blues for mini lesson 11. Let's go ahead and dive into the intro. We're going to start here with a D chord. Take your index finger, bar it across the E and A strings on the 5th fret. Take your middle finger, add it to the 6th fret of the C string. We're going to strum through our C, E, and A together. Then the A string again, 5th fret. Then 8 on the E with the pinky. Then 7 on the E with the ring. 5 on the E, which is already there. So in time, measure 1 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 2, we're going to play 5 on the C with your index finger, so just kind of kick it up. And then play 6 on the C with the middle finger, 5 on the E with the index finger, finally 7 on the G with the ring finger. And then we're going to just do a muted down strum. Just take your fretting hand, lightly touch the strings, and strike them for that muted sound. So in time, measure 2 should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... So the intro in its entirety is just these first 2 bars. Sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... From here we go on to melody B, the riff. We're going to start by playing the 1st fret on the E string with your index finger. And then we're going to play that with the open A and immediately hammer on to 2 with the middle finger here. Then we're going to take this index finger, we're going to move it over to 2 on the C, play that. Then take the middle finger, move it down to the 2nd fret on the A string, and add the ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the E, and pluck the E and A together to make this sort of G chord. So it's going from this D chord to a G chord to create this sound. I suggest just working on this for a while to get the finger movements. It's super fun when you get it. Now after you've done that once, you do that again. And that's the whole measure. It's just doing this little riff twice where you do the 1 and 0, hammer onto 2, play 2 on the C, switch to the G, play the E and the A, play the C, and then you repeat. So in time, measure 3 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going on to measure 4 here, we're going to move up the fretboard a little bit. We're going to be at 6 on the E string with the middle finger and 5 on the A string with the index finger. Pluck those two together and then do a hammer on with the ring finger on 7 of the E. Play the open G. Then take these two fingers, the middle and index, and slide them up 2 frets while taking the ring finger off. So you're at 8 and 7. Play those two. Then open on the G. Then take this index finger, slide it up 1 more to 8, and add the ring finger here on 10 of the E. Pluck those two. Open on the G. Back to the C we just played a moment ago with the middle finger here on 8 and the index finger here on 7. So in time, measure 4 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And in time, measures 3 and 4 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going on to measure 5, you'll notice measure 5 looks very similar to start as measure 3 because we start off the same, but then we're going to play open on the G instead of the 2 on the C. And we follow this up with this D11. Just take your ring finger, slide it up 2 frets to 5 on the E, and add your index finger here to the 3rd fret of the A string. Pluck the E and A together, then open on the G, and then move back down to your G chord that you just played a moment ago. So measure 5 sounds like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going on to measure 6, I find this part a little bit challenging. You're going to move to this D sus2. You're going to need to have your ring finger here on the 7th fret of the G string, your index finger here on the 5th fret of the E string, and your pinky finger here on the 7th fret of the A string. It's just kind of an awkward little thing to fret, especially if you have big hands like I do. But you're going to play the G and then the E and A together. And then you're going to mute, so have the left hand just touch the strings and down strum, and you're going to come up on a D7. To play that, you bar across the 5th fret entirely with your index, add the middle finger here on 6 of the C string, come up, then you're going to do a miss, and then come up and down. So measure 6 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And measures 5 and 6 should sound something like this, transitioning from our picking into our strumming. 2 and 3 and 4. Going now into measure 7, we're now firmly in the strumming part of the tune. We're going to play a G9. To play this, it's a double bar. Bar the 5th fret with the C, E, and A strings with your middle finger, and then take your index and place it on the 4th fret of the G. I find it helps to do 2 bars here. You don't need the 2nd bar with this index. It's okay if it just hits the G, but the double bar is a good way to get a good connection with the strings. We're going to go down, and then you can mute or do a chunk. Either way works. And then you're going to come up, miss going down, and then up, and then mute, mute. So measure 7 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going right into measure 8, we go to our G sharp diminished. Take that index finger and pivot on it. It still stays at 4 on the G, but then the ring finger comes to 5 on the C. Middle finger goes to 4 on the E, and the pinky finger comes to 5 on the A. We're going to do a down up here, then a mute or a chunk, and then we're going to come up, going 3 frets up to our G sharp diminished 7 up here on 7, 8, 7, 8. Then we're going to miss going down, And then we move up 3 more frets to 10, 11, 10, 11 for our last version of this G sharp diminished 7, and come up. So measure 8 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And measures 7 and 8 should sound like this as a pair. 2 and 3 and 4 and... From here we go on to measure 9. Measure 9 looks pretty familiar to the beginning because the first few notes are exactly the same. The first half of this measure is identical to what we did in measure 3. But then instead of repeating it like we did in measure 3, we do this new sort of riff. And to do this, we're going to play an E minor, ring finger here on the 4th fret of the C string, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the E string, index finger here on the 2nd fret of the A. We're going to pluck the C, and then the E and A together. And then we're going to do a mute on a down and a mute on an up. So measure 9 in time sounds like this, starting with the same thing as measure 3, then that new little riff. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 10, just take this same shape, slide it up 2 frets, and you're going to do the same little riff. You're going to play the C, which is now on 6, and then the E and A on 5 and 4 there. And then we're going to do a mute and a mute on a down and up. And then for the second half of this measure, we do the exact same thing. We just move down 1 fret. So we're at this F minor at 5, 4, 3 on the C, E, and A. Pluck the C, pluck the E and A, and then mute, mute. Pretty straightforward. In time, measure 10 sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And the pair of these 2 measures should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going now into measure 11, more strumming. We're going to go to this A9 to play this. Same double bar we did before on the G9, just moved up 2 frets. Now we're at 6 and 7. We're going to do a down up followed by a mute or a chunk. Then we're going to add our pinky finger here on the 9th fret of the A string for this really cool chord. And then we're going to miss going down, and we're going to come back up without the pinky there, followed by a mute, mute, or a chunk mute. So measure 11 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 12. Measure 12 is exactly the same as measure 11 was, just with the chord moved down 2 frets. So now it's back at that G9, 4, 5, 5, 5. We're going to do the down, up, mute, and then we're going to add 7 here on the A string, so 2 frets away, just like we did before. Coming up, and then we're going to miss, and then take that pinky off, up, mute, mute. So it's exactly the same thing, just 2 frets down. In time, 12 should sound like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And the 2 together, 11 and 12, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 13 now. We're going to play a D up here. Ring finger on the 7th fret of the C string, middle finger here on the 6th fret of the C string, 7th fret of the G string with the ring finger, 6th fret on the C string with the middle, and the index is going to bar across the E and the A strings on the 5th fret. We're going to pluck the G string, and then we're going to pluck the C, E, and A, and then we're going to do a mute, and then we're going to come up, miss, up, and then mute. And then we're going to switch chords here at the end of the measure. I know it's going to sound wrong, but I promise it's correct. We're going to play 7, 8, 8, 8. It's a little bit of chromaticism we're setting up here at the end of the measure. But this is played the same way we did our A9 and our G9. It's just now moved up 1 more fret than where we were used to from before. So measure 13 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into 14, we hold this chord. We're going to do an up, mute, move it down 1 fret, come up, miss, up, and then mute, followed by an up on D7. 5, 6, 5, 5, the same one that we played earlier, bar across the 5th fret, add the middle finger here on 6 of the C. And so measure 14 in time should sound something like this. Again, it's starting with that 7, 8, 8, 8 chord from the previous bar. Should be this. 2 and 3 and 4 and the two measures together, measures 13 and 14, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and going into the last 2 bars here, we're going to be holding this chord to start the bar, then we're going to play 5 on the A, which is already there, then 8 on the E, add the pinky finger here, and then 7 on the E with the ring finger, 5 on the E, which is already part of that chord, so 5 on the E. But let's go and hear what 15 sounds like on its own, which is ending with that 5 on the E string. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and going into 16, you already know, 7 on the C, and then 5 on the C with the index finger here, hammer onto 6 on the C with the middle finger, and then play 7 on the G with the ring finger, and we do an up strum on that D chord of 7, 6, 5, 5 with your ring, middle, and index finger barred there. So measure 16 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and But here's what 15 and 16 sound like together to get a really good feel for this ending sequence. 2 and 3 and 4 and And there you have it. There is the rhythmic blues. It's a lot of fun to play all the way through as you're working on it. Take it sort of section by section, work on those rhythms, make sure that what goes up comes, or what goes down comes back up, and what comes up goes back down when you're strumming. It's not possible to do 2 downstrokes in a row, right? So we have to make sure we're moving our hand consistently, get that swing feel, and you'll have this in no time. As always, be sure to leave any questions you have down below. I'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks so much.
Alright guys, so this mini lesson was a lot of fun. This is a really cool approach to playing the blues in the fact that we altered some of the chords. So we're not sticking rigidly to the 1-4-5 chord progression that we typically do the blues in. We have a few substitutions here and there, and that in turn jazzifies it a little bit. Makes it a bit more fresh to the ear, a little bit more interesting to listen to and to perform for others. Now, I do want to give you a friendly reminder that if you do want to get the tabs to print off and keep for your records, that was available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do search for ML011. That was the lesson number for this lesson. Don't forget to, on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning this piece, and we will catch you in the next lesson. Take care.